from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
All right, listen up, everyone. Maybe you're out there afraid that you will never get to grow old together. Are you losing that love for someone that you love? Or maybe those loving feelings are starting to deteriorate. Well, guess what? We have our expert marriage counselor here and, of course, has over 40 years of experience. And Dr. John Gottman is someone that he looks up to and really helps with relationships assessments. So Jim Ramsey joining us here live today to talk more about his in-depth counseling options that he offers from Aletheia Marriage Counseling. So that's Aletheia, Aletheia, marriagecounseling.com. Jim, always a pleasure to have you back. How are you today?
Pretty good. Good to see you.
You too. So by the way, besides the couples counseling, marriage counseling, he does divorce counseling. We hope it doesn't get there, but if it does, he's the guy to help you. Premarital counseling and separate counseling for wives and husbands. And also don't forget faith-based Christian counseling as well. And we are excited that you're back here today. And any insight before we start off today's show did you want to share with your listeners?
I think we're all kind of waiting for this election to get over. Want to talk about tense.
Oh, great. Yes, that's a whole other show, right? We can get into politics. Nah, but I know, right?
Anxiety and depression. There you go. That's where it is.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you back here as our expert. And you've been helping so many couples, so many people for so many years. You don't look old enough to be helping people for over 40 years, but yeah, that's a good thing. But clearly lots of experience, and he's here providing online services like we're doing today here Zoom to help so many. So let's get started, and we're going to go back into our spouses and relationship counseling and our questions, and we're going to start with spouses. So spouses, how can you maybe free yourself from negative luggage from their past? Because we all come with something, right? Skeletons in our closet, or you want to call it baggage. What do we call that?
Luggage, bad stuff, whatever it is.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. Most people do come in to a marriage with bad luggage that is affecting their marriage. And the thing that you want to do is recognize that things that happened in earlier experiences, whether it's in childhood or a previous relationship that are hurtful or negative, can really produce triggers in your current relationship. And so, your partner seems to be impatient with you or a little harsh or a little bit demanding or whatever it may be. If that is something that's in your suitcase, that's going to cause that to be exaggerated. It's going to be a bigger deal than it should be. Mm-hmm. And so being married is a place where you can actually resolve and heal unresolved issues from earlier experiences. Because when they crop up, if you can recognize them and you can talk and laugh about it, oh yeah, that's what Dad used to always do. I'm sure glad you're not my dad, have a little humor about it and realize it's not all happening right now. I'm being triggered because most people are just oblivious and they assume that their partner is just doing horrible things because they have a raw spot in that area. And so they react big time. The other person's over there blinking like, what's the big deal? And then they react back, and you're off to the races. But the more you can recognize those things by thinking within yourself or even as a partner, wow, you seem to be really upset about this. Is there more to the story, or does this remind you of something in the past? In other words, you can either take inventory yourself, or your partner can kind of help you take inventory so that you can identify what some of these bad things are that are affecting the present.
And you suggest being open and honest about this, bringing it to the table before marriage, what's in our past, or how does that work? Because a lot of people don't do that.
As you know, we can't talk too much when we're talking about husband and wife. We need to know each other.
Got it. Okay.
And you should know a lot about their family and about the previous relationships, about their siblings, before you ever get engaged,
Yeah.
But sometimes things pop up that you don't expect in a relationship, and you kind of wonder, why are you so mad, or why are you so depressed about that? It seems like you're making a bigger deal than is warranted, and you don't say that in a negative way. Honey, is there more here?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me. The thing you don't want to do is react. Reacting is a bad thing.
All right. Well, let's get started, and I should say continue the conversation with painful experiences. We all have them, right? And, how does your marriage, would you say, provides an opportunity to heal from unresolved past painful experiences?
Well, I think that's a positive way to look at it. You don't want to just be acting out the rest of your life about problems you had as a kid, defense mechanisms you learned when you were a kid that produced problems in your marriage. You want to get over those things.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is pay attention to what you're feeling as you interact. And if something hits you wrong, and we've talked about this before, just ask, tell me more. What's upsetting you here? Or it seems like, you're really angry with me, but I don't know, is there more to it than that? Don't just jump in and react. Men often, when a woman is emotional, begin to try to fix her or react, as we've said, and that just makes it worse. Then she's upset more, and then I'm more upset. Or you can be curious rather than defensive. That's the key.
Interesting. All right, we got that. Let's talk more now, if we can, about maybe some powerful ways, or maybe the most powerful way in general that you can provide an opportunity to really help each other, achieve. How do I say this? You want to heal from past traumas. So let me rephrase this. Hold on. What would you say is the most powerful way a couple can help each other heal from past traumas relationally?
Well, if you know that you both came from difficult backgrounds, aside from going to a therapist and having them help you, a marriage therapist could help you, but you can do a lot yourself. Just take some time and sit down and say, we need to talk. Let's talk about backgrounds and anything that could possibly affect us. For example, if you had a really harsh father and your defense mechanism was to run and hide somewhere or leave the house, well, you don't want to do that when you're married. So you want to identify your defense mechanisms and identify the triggers that cause them. And you can consciously do that as a couple. If you've got a lot of things that have been really hard, bring them out, talk about them. But what you're looking for is the ability to talk about what you really feel inside rather than how you act when you feel that way. Because if you do the how you act when you feel that way, that's causing marital problems. If you talk about what's really going on inside, each time something comes up with your spouse, and especially if it relates to the past, then they can comfort you. They can understand. They can say, wow, I'm sorry, huh? It's not a direct attack. You're not doing something that's going to get them going. That's what you want to avoid. You want to build your connection and avoid conflict.
Perfect. And often too many times it goes into the conflict mode, which is, again, what we're trying to eliminate here. So now, speaking of traumas from childhood, would you share some that maybe are most damaging to husbands and wives in particular?
Well, I think the most damaging are the ones that are involving anger, abuse, physical abuse, and, of course, sexual abuse is terrible. That can come from a family member or a parent, a father or mother, or a brother or sister. It could be something like that. But when you get into those kinds of really difficult abuse issues, sometimes it's good to do some individual work, just to talk about that with somebody to help process those feelings. But you can do it within the marriage as well. But the key is just to talk about what happened. And it's, the big thing you got to do is learn how to talk about things.
Yeah.
When you can talk about it with your spouse, that really helps to fully understand. We talk about the specific kinds of behaviors that were so traumatic. Obviously, I don't want to do those things that were so traumatic for you, unless you come to a point where it's in a different context, it's no longer traumatic. But the more you can really be heart to heart with each other.
Yeah.
And not hide things, but reveal things, but do it in a proper way.
Perfect. Well, also, we are here with Jim Ramsey from Aletheia Marriage Counseling. Go to the website, AlethiaMarriageCounseling.com, spelled ALETHEIA Marriage Counseling. He's doing these virtual sessions, so anywhere, he can help you, which is beautiful. Originally, though, you started serving your clients, it was in Montana, correct?
I started in California in 74.
Okay.
Moved to Montana in 76, opened my office there in 79.
And are you still seeing people in person in California and in Montana?
Yeah. What's happened is, semi-retired, so I've sold my operation there in Missoula, Montana. I now have an office on Placid Lake in the Scenic Swan Valley. And people generally find me through referrals of all my past clients, or people find me on the internet, and they all call, and I could do the initial work on Zoom, save driving from any part of Montana. I have people calling me from other states and different places. So we do the initial work on Zoom, and then we do some remote work where they're doing the reading that's necessary to improve the problems they're having. Then when they've got the text under their belt and they have the skills under the belt, then they come and see me for an intensive weekend. This is the Cadillac marriage counseling. That you have a diagnosis, you have a treatment plan, you've done a lot of learning yourself, and you've saved a lot of money that way. Then you come with me for 16 hours, and it's really a delightful weekend where we really get you turned around and go in the right direction.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's talk a little bit about the in-laws, in a sense, because sometimes that always leads to some type of drama if you have intrusive parents or parents-in-laws, right?
Well, you've heard the term. I'm sure most people have heard the term of, the whole thing of having boundaries.
Yeah.
And the key is to understand that it's very important that you make your primary relationship your primary relationship. Your wife, your husband is more important to you than your mom and dad are, or your sister, or your cousin, or your best friend. You want to make sure that you have boundaries that don't make your spouse feel like being with your parents or helping your parents or doing things with your parents is more important than being with them or doing with them. And, this happens a lot.
Yeah.
It really does. And you got to get it straight and keep it straight.
I know a lot of couples that don't even speak to their own parents because the new person comes in and it's drama and it's trauma. One of my dear friends, her husband doesn't speak to his mother anymore because the mother never liked her. Don't even see the grandkids. And I just, who am I to say but I'm like, there has to be a way to resolve this. Those grandkids haven't seen their grandmother in 5 years. They don't really know them. It's really sad that sometimes gets in the way. And
you're showing the other side of the coin, which is really important.
Yeah.
Where the new wife just doesn't like the mother-in-law, and I don't want anything to do with the mother-in-law. I don't want to see her. I don't want the kids to see her, and that can be pretty tough on a husband. Those are my kids. That's my mom, and I want my kids to have a grandma. And so that's why it's kind of important to make friends and have a good relationship before you get married. They need to be comfortable in the family already, if something does come up, it makes a lot of sense to just appropriately and respectfully correct whatever went wrong. If you need a third party, get a third party, but get it fixed.
Yeah, I agree.
It's sad both ways.
It really is. And we don't want that to happen to people out there. So let's fix it before it gets that far. And let's talk about, some barriers, more relational barriers that need to be in place, especially relative to parents and family members.
Well, let me give you an example of another situation that sometimes happens, quite often actually happens, where maybe a sibling is having a hard time and they want to come and stay with you. So now we got a brother in the basement or a sister in one of the bedrooms in the house.
I've had that happen. I'm agreeing, yeah.
And if it's your brother, your guy, and there's your brother, what's tempted to go play golf with him or go hunting with him or go fishing with him or do the stuff you used to do. It's pretty easy for the wife to feel like you'd rather be with your brother than with me. Mm-hmm. You're saying yes to him before you even ask me if I want you to be gone for a weekend. That sort of thing happens quite often. It can happen the same way around with a wife wanting the mom to live in the house.
Yeah.
Or a sister to live in the house, or somebody that's handicapped in some way. It can be really difficult situations. But, you want to be careful and you want to know about some of these things ahead of time. And you want to be able to be calm and reasonable and try to work out something that makes sense to both of you, rather than just imposing this person on your spouse because they're my brother or they're my mom. It's not quite that simple. Again, you come back to the primary thing that we talked about at the beginning. The boundaries are that the primary relationship comes first.
Well, also, what would you say the appropriate boundaries would be, that pertain to previous intimate partners? Are you allowed to speak to an ex, someone you've dated, someone that you've been married to? I mean, who gets to come up with those boundaries? What if one person has an opinion saying they still want to be in touch with someone who's a friend, but that makes the spouse feel uncomfortable?
Well, sometimes it can get difficult, I think it's pretty ordinary for a person to talk with a divorced spouse, particularly if they're the parents of the kids that you're shifting back and forth between you,
Yeah.
On the other hand, having regular relationships or conversations with people you loved and were with back previous years as a girlfriend or boyfriend or even a live-in situation or whatever, that's pretty inappropriate, But again, if the present spouse is a good friend of the old person, as long as it's no big deal to them, it's no big deal. But you just want to be really respectful about the privacy of your marriage. There's all kinds of things that could come in there and cause problems. Be a person at work, your boss, or partner in your work that becomes more important to you, seemingly, to your spouse than they are.
Yeah. Well, also, let's ask, about what about appropriate boundaries that pertain to opposite sex unmarried friends? That can get a little tricky, too.
Yes, I think some people are trying to be so progressive and modern that they just think that everything is normal, Being somewhere with another person of another gender in a restaurant, middle of the day by yourself having lunch, that's maybe you're not doing anything bad, you're just having lunch. But what about the neighbors that happen to see it or somebody else that sees it and started rumors about your wife or you? I think you need to be kind of respectful of your relationship.
Yeah.
And even if it's nothing at all, nothing to it. I just don't think it's a good idea to be alone in public with somebody of the other gender that could cause some kind of a question mark about your relationship with your spouse.
Yeah.
But that's up to each couple to work out for themselves. But that area, I think, I'm probably a little more sensitive than some people would be. But it can cause problems. I've seen that in my office. Could
you give us an example of what you've seen in particular?
Well, for example, in work, it's very typical for it to be easy to go somewhere and have lunch with somebody that's working with you, And you might have a friendly relationship that other people can say, not only are they friendly, but look at this. They're out there having lunch together, or they're going this place together, or in the car driving down the highway together. People like to have rumors that they can spread sometimes.
Interesting. It's so
I don't want to give any fodder. I don't want to give anything to work with.
Yeah. Got it. Well, also, what about, would you say the greatest need that adults and couples have relative to becoming maximally healthy, emotional people? So what is the greatest need that adults and couples have relative to becoming maximally healthy, emotional people? Okay.
Well, to become maximally healthy, you have to make sure that there's no residual things from past that will address that. You've got to accept the fact that if you're going to be really healthy with a partner, you have to be very open and honest. You have to be very respectful.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's a problem with respecting the other gender even. Wives are so emotional, or men are just so oblivious, well, they may be that way somewhat, but you don't want to be making that the thing you say a lot, or you don't want to be hurting each other with that. You want to respect the woman's emotionality. She's got intuition that you don't have. You need to respect his cool head, that he can handle things when there's really hard conditions. You need to see yourselves as complementary. My strength may be the value for you because it's not your strength, or your strength is not mine. I need a wife that reads people well because I'm the eternal optimist, thinks everybody's great. I'm excited about some deal, and my wife talks to me afterwards. I wouldn't trust that guy further than I could throw him. You don't want to do business with him. Well, he likes to fish with me, blah, blah, blah. I could be a real idiot without my wife. So you got to be complimentary. And the same thing with a gal that's always emotional. Well, she needs a cool head around, and she needs somebody that plans ahead and so forth in some ways. Not to say that they don't. But even the same gender, we have the complementariness. Two women can be, So you want to see your partner as somebody that you respect and value, not somebody that's a pain that you have to live with.
Good to know. And let's also, we have another question or two here. Why are there so many divorcees in our culture today? And so many unhappy marriages? That's kind of like a two-part question there.
Well, you're talking about an old guy, so I'm going to give you an old guy's answer. Today,
man with experience, we'll call it.
Everything is crowding in. They're hiding in their internet. They're on the phone all the time. They're playing games in the middle of the night. The biggest thing is not being mature and not being unselfish. If it's all about me, I'm not going to be a very good spouse. Mm-hmm. And if it's all about me for them too, if we're both self-centered, guess what kind of marriage we're going to have? And then, the average selfish young couple that get married are not prepared for kids because they're just having fun partying and running around. And they have a romantic, now we're going to get to have a kid. Well, you know what? You better read the book by John Gottman, Bringing Baby Home. It prepares you for what it's going to be like to have a baby. And I'll tell you what, it's a wonderful thing to be a parent and see the children grow up and be with them when they're little babies, and know them when they get to be adults. And then you got grandkids and great-grandkids. And again, I'm talking like an old guy. The young folks, half of all the divorces are getting divorced. Half of all the young married couples are getting divorced within the first 7 years.
You always say that, and people out there, and it's fast. Everyone I know, it is 7 years. So how does that happen? What happens in 7 years? What's so significant about that 7-year mark? I mean, really?
Well, it's kind of humorous. I think mom and dad don't want to tell you everything about having babies because they want to have grandchildren. And I think your older siblings that already have kids don't want to tell you because misery likes company. But you know what? If you're prepared for it, and this is going to be tough, and we are going to be tired, and we're going to be awake half the night. I say we, not just
we.
And we are going to change diapers, and we are going to feed kids, and we're going to go through all kinds of things. For the next few years, all we're going to talk about are babies. Do you want to do that? Well, if you want to do that, that's what's going to happen. Because you don't talk much about fishing and hunting when you've got a baby there to take care of. And so once you accept, I want a little boy, I want a little girl, and I want to help be a daddy to him. I want to raise him. Okay, I go in fully prepared to go through a stressful situation, a bonding experience, if you will. Like going out in the woods and getting in a real tough situation with a hunting buddy. Those kind of bonding experiences make you really good friends. Mm-hmm. Well, raising a little baby will make you really good friends when you get out the other end. You might be kind of upset with each other from time to time when the stuff's happening. But, you need to go through stuff together to really build a tight, strong relationship. And you don't want to be bailing then. That's when you hang in there and do what you need to do.
Aw, I like that. All right. Well, we still have just a few minutes left on the show. What other insight would you like to give to our listeners here today?
Well, I'd like to add a word or two about what I just said. I think I've mentioned this in a previous show, but your love deepens when you work together, when you go through stress together. Just like soldiers that go through war together, they're absolutely tight for the rest of their lives. Well, that's what husbands and wives are like when they go through hard things together, whether it's financial or whether it's children or whether it's disease or whether it's money, whatever it is. You need to go through those things and help each other. And every time you do that, you get stronger in your relationship. More trust, more appreciation, more respect. And those are things that you want to have in a good marriage.
And it's always important to talk to someone, even before marriage. And if it's too late, you're already married, now's the time.
Yeah. Well, maybe you made mistakes and you're going through hard stuff, but nothing is happening in your relationship that can't be fixed if you want to fix it. I say to prospective clients, do you both want to save this marriage? If they sit there and shake their heads, I say, okay, are you both teachable? Those are the two things, motivation and teachability. I'll take care of the rest.
Perfect.
It's not rocket science. You just got to learn a few things and do them.
Yeah.
And then things get better,
Oh, well, thank you for always being here, giving us this insight. Jim Ramsey, how do we contact you?
Give me a phone call. 406-370-3515.
Perfect.
And I'll talk with you. You can decide whether you want to work with me, and I'll decide whether I want to work with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you here. And thank you for being here today and enlightening us. And please reach out to him. Tell him we sent you. And hopefully we'll talk again soon. Okay, Jim? Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
You too. Have a great day. To all of our listeners and viewers, stay tuned. We'll be back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit. And make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.